What is up, Cowboys Nation? Your boy Mike Tag here with Kelly K9. You know what time it is. It's talking some Cowboys time when you get the crew in the house. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe, share, get all that out of the way. We're less than, 31 new subscribers away from 4,000. Like I told you, we get to 5,000, we're going to give away some club seats. And if you've been following the show, you know your boy ain't too happy about the way I've been treated. So this is going to be your last opportunity, so you better get it done quickly. So first, before we get rolling the show, Kelly, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing all right, man. But I just, it's kind of a little bit of how it's been going. My flag behind me fell down right before the show happened. It's almost like the Cowboys in distress, man. So I had to prop that sucker back up there. But I'm doing good, man. I'm ready to get into this and talk some football and chop it up with the Cowboys Cave members here.
Yes, absolutely. And I just want to put this out there because I did a video. I retweeted an old video that I did with Marcus Spears, and I said, hey man, let's get the negativity out, because come kickoff time, we ain't gonna hear this shit, man. We're all in. It's the way it goes. And maybe someone might have thought that, try and get some beef between me and you, thinking it was directed towards you. And I just want to make sure it ain't never going to be no beef between Kelly and I. I agree with a lot of what he says. And this is what I call off season is tough love. We got to get these guys focused. We got to get this ownership right. But there is zero doubt in my mind when that Cowboy Cave tailgate party comes off. I mean, Kelly's all in. Now, I don't know if you're going to be happy about it, but you ain't going nowhere, right?
No. I'm here for the long haul, for better or worse. It's kind of like a marriage, man. Got to ride out the tough times, and can't just be sunshine and rainbows all the time.
Yeah, but hopefully they'll figure this stuff out. But we're gonna have a semi-positive show, because I know we're gonna get into some Cowboys, and there are some things that I think all of us have some concerns with. But Kelly started this with the show, the Fan of the Month, and we've had some good ones. And it gets tougher and tougher. The bar gets higher and higher. And our Fan of the Month, Ronnie, is going to be in the cave in a few minutes, and he has one of the baddest Cowboys caves, man caves that you'd ever see. So he's going to set the bar even higher on the aesthetics of the cave and all that kind of good stuff. So without any further ado, let me get this stuff right so we get everything where it needs to be. Get my man Ronnie on here. What is up, man? How's it going? Glad to see you back in the cave.
Yes, sir. How's everybody doing today?
Oh, well, we're doing good.
Perfect.
We're doing good. We're excited. Now, you got a unbelievable Cowboys cave. It's hard to see the beauty of it right there, but it's something to see. It's like a palace. It's like a palace.
Yeah,
it is nice.
It's pretty good. Of course, we have a lot of gatherings and stuff whenever we're watching the games, and so needed something a little bigger, and so luckily I have a pretty dang good wife that supports me in this, and she went ahead and gave me the green light on it, and so the building went a building, and built me a pretty nice little spot here, man. I'm enjoying it. You're enjoying it.
Yeah. There you go. It's nice.
Let me ask you something, and then we'll get into it. But what part of the house is that? Because did you get the main part of the house? Do you have a basement? I'm not sure where you're at, but what are we looking?
I'm in South Texas, so I'm actually about 2 hours away from Cuts.
Okay.
So I'm over there. But so what happened is it's in my backyard. I built it from the ground up. It's a standalone building. I built a house by itself. It's a 2,000 square foot man cave. I got full bar in here. I got a full bath, everything. So it's in my backyard. It's behind my house.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, so
that's impressive.
Yeah, well, whenever you get a lot of people over, you just try to keep them out of your house a little bit. You don't everybody want always rolling around in your house and that kind of stuff. And it works out. It works out really good in that. So Yeah, pretty good, pretty good. Get a little loud in here and have a good time in here for sure.
Well, that's badass. That's
Yeah.
badass.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That is kick ass.
Long time dream for sure. And it was no better time to do it now, Might as
So
well.
we're looking at, and you've been on and we talked a little bit. I don't think we haven't met at a game though. You haven't been to
No, I haven't yet. And I got to get to a tailgate this year. That's got to be up on my list this year. I got to get over there and be able to hang out with you guys. And you always look like y'all are having a great time out there, kicking it pretty good. And I'm about down for a good time like that. Go.
we have a better time when they win. Last time it was good until the start of the game, and then it was just kind of like you end up in a fog. But I do know that I think possibly in the summer. I mean, Cuts does his annual summer bash. Kelly's down there, and I'm gonna figure out a way to get down there as well if it works out. My daughter's going to college. I just got to make sure it works out in the schedule for her. But I know Cuts. Have you been to Cuts's bar?
I haven't yet. And actually, my daughter just started going to school in San Antonio. Also, started going to college over there. And
nice. So there you go. Got a reason.
Yeah, I even got more of a reason to hang out down there. So hopefully be able to link up with everybody this year for sure.
Awesome. Kelly, go ahead and jump in. I don't want to hog all the
Nah,
time.
man. I was gonna say, man, we gotta, definitely gotta get him over to the Cowboys Cave or to the Cowboys Cave tailgate. If you're in Texas, there's no reason why you can't get out there. I mean, there's some people that come down there don't even necessarily have to go to the game. I've talked about not going to the game myself and just hanging out at the tailgate. So, it's a good time, man. It's definitely a good time, and yeah, I know you'd have a blast if you came. Plus, you get to meet Cowboys fans they come from all over because they truly are, man. They're from everywhere. I think this last time we had, Frankie from Germany was out there, and we had Greg out there. We had people from, obviously the Carolinas and Doug and his son, and I mean
California.
Yeah, there was a good representation of Cowboys Nation right there at the Cowboys Cake Tailgate. So it's definitely an experience.
Heck yeah, got to try some Cuts' Q while I'm out there too.
Oh yeah, that's always good.
Absolutely, he is definitely the Cowboys Cave chief chef, and he does a beautiful job. And Mark handles the security. We have never have any issues. We got no problems. So everything is good. Everything is good. We just hopefully. It's we like to do it early. That way, if the things go sideways, at least, we want to make sure Kelly and I and Cuts aren't the only ones, and Mark aren't the only ones at the tailgate. So we usually do it early. So that schedule is coming out May 14th. So we will be doing a live schedule release show, and Kelly and I will be kind of chatting during the show, trying to pencil in the time that'll be the best day for the tailgate party. So the only hiccup I have is my Hurricanes. They play Notre Dame in Florida early in the season, and both of them are at home. So the Notre Dame one I'm covered. The Cowboys season doesn't start yet. The Florida one is my tricky one. So hopefully I'll be able to work it in where I can go to the game. But the Cowboys will take priority. So if I miss it, I miss it. But so give us your story, because if my memory is right, the fandom runs deep with you and your family. And I'm starting to, and I apologize, I'm starting to remember everything because as we get going, because you've been on the show, and I believe you called in, and then I think you did a live. I think you came in live one time during one of our live feeds as well. So give the fans your Cowboys story, and you're still a fan after some disappointing, time. So that's always a positive. So what's happening?
Yeah. So, my family does, it runs deep. Usually we get around here on the games and that, and there's 30 or 40 of us in here, and that, so it goes off pretty good on our Sundays here and that. Of course, I got a lot of family that comes in and that, and we watch the games here and stuff. But I have two siblings. I have a brother and a sister, two brothers and a sister. I'm sorry, three siblings. And my story, my family story, it's a little crazy. And that, but it brought us all closer. And what's crazy, and just kind of seeing it just, I don't mean to drag it down or anything like that, but I lost a sister. I had a sister, she was murdered in that, and I lost my sister. And then a year later, I lost my brother to cancer and that. And then here not too long ago, I lost my dad in that,
Oh man.
So the thing that my dad had really established in us, though, and it was one thing that really was really cool with the family is that, you know, no matter what was happening on Sundays, it just stopped. Cowboys game was on, and everybody comes together, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the way we grew up, you know. No matter where we were at, whatever we were doing, we always ended up at my dad's house, and you know, we all hung out together and stuff like that. And so that star, I mean, what's kind of crazy, it brings a lot to it, and we, you know, we have our heartaches and everything and our ups and downs with everything with the team. But for me, when I see it, it means a lot to family to me, you know. And when I see that, and for what it represents and what I see on my Sundays now, to see what my dad did and carry on through, you know, my relatives now, and it's you know, it's pretty neat. It's pretty neat. And so once again, win or lose, like we always do, you know what, no matter what, every year is our year. And you know, one of these years we'll be right. And you know, but hey, you know, if anything, I have a good time on the weekend with my family and stuff like that. If not, then you know, me and my wife will go to a game or something like that. You know, it works out pretty good. You know,
Yeah.
works out pretty good.
Well, no, we appreciate you sharing that story. And I think, you know, what you said, a lot of people with football and a lot of people, you know, it doesn't matter what team it is. It could be the Cowboys. It could be, I'm not going to say the Eagles, screw them, but it could be the Buccaneers. It could be the Dolphins or whatever. Football runs deep and in certain families. And when you hear stories like that, and there's a lot of personal stuff, never to the level but I was a lone wolf in my family as a Cowboys fan. So I was so happy when I met Kelly, and then we started doing the hype video came up because I made all these friends that I didn't have growing up that were Cowboy fans. All my friends used to give me shit, you know, until the Cowboys started winning. And then you had all these new Cowboy fans. So then I got mad and I didn't want to, you know, I never flashed my Cowboy stuff, and, you know, because I used to get mad about it. But, you know, the bond that it creates, you know, these teams. And that's why it's so hard. And people say, oh man, why are you a Cowboys fan? Why are you going to the games? Why are you supporting? And it could be any team. It's the story that you told and other stories that I've heard alike. It's more than Jerry Jones. I mean, I think we all agree Jerry Jones is senile and he's crazy, but I'm not letting Jerry Jones ruin my fun. I'm not letting Jerry Jones ruin my time hanging out with my friends, supporting the players and that star and everything else that comes around it. Now, we'd like him to get his shit together so we can win a championship, because it's much happier that way, right? But at the end of the day, it's like I tell people, when I go to the games, the game is like secondary. Like Kelly said, I can sit in the parking lot probably and have just as much fun. And I'll fly out there, it would mean just as much. So, you know, that's the thing I love about sports. It brings every race together, every whatever lifestyle you want to live together. I mean, whatever it is, that bond of the team, it unites a country, it unites family. It's just a great thing. So I didn't mean to drag on about it, but your story is so touching, and it's just, that just resonates with me of why it reinforces why I'm as passionate about the Cowboys. And maybe sometimes some say a little too positive, but it's why I'm passionate about the Cowboys. It's really the fans. I want it for the fans more than I want it for ownership. That's for damn sure. But Kelly, your thoughts too on that.
I mean, same thing. Like, I mean, kind of took the words out of my mouth. I mean, it is, you know, it is a big giant family, you know what I mean? And it's sometimes we argue with each other or disagree with each other, and you know, and sometimes there are some people in the family that don't get along together. We all know that. Sometimes it can get a little bit dysfunctional. But you know, at the end of the day, you know, one common thing can unite us, and that's the love of the Cowboys and the hatred of the Eagles, Giants, and Commanders, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely so. So we're going to get past, now we all are lovey-dovey and we're feeling good and everyone's positive. Now we got to put some reality in. Now we got to bring some reality in, and maybe some tough love, but maybe some bright spots and maybe some hope and optimism in certain areas, and maybe the feeling that things aren't done. But, you know, Kelly's been very, very, you know, vocal and he's not backing down his thoughts. So just asking you before we get to Kelly, maybe he's softened up. I don't know. But what is your thoughts on the Cowboys? Look, we always talk about when Kelly and I did the show before, the draft wasn't done. So I told Kelly, these are the things that I want. And if these things happen, then I'm feeling better. Some happened, some didn't. I mean, let's just be honest. So we're still kind of at that spot. But where are you with the Cowboys today? Have they done enough? If not, what else are you needing to see to give you optimism that, hey, this team can be contenders in the 25 season?
Well, of course, with the first round pick, it's not what we wanted, but it's kind of what you needed. It's not the receiver. I was hoping, that we would end up with the receiver in that first round. Just watching things as they go, receivers are never there. Usually later in the draft, and that not quality ones anyway, and that. And so you go through that, and as they went, I'm not really mad at what they drafted. I feel okay, but it's still, I feel like they had a pretty good draft and filled a lot of holes. But the problem was there was a lot of holes, and not all the holes got filled. And that's the bad part. The roster didn't back up what was drafted, and there were people out there I feel like we could have gotten free agency to where it could have freed it up a little bit more. But once again, we picked up some good people in the draft, but there's just, to me, it was just too many holes to fill in the draft and not enough of what we needed, especially at the receiver position. I mean, we kind of all seen what happened pre-Amari Cooper, thinking, one receiver was going to be enough, and it just wasn't. We struggled and struggled and struggled. Falls back on Dak. Here we go again,
Yeah. No, I mean, those are all fair points, and let Kelly jump in on kind of where you're at. Are you any better? The weird thing is you say 8 wins, which I have them at like 9 or 10. So I don't think, Kelly, we're that far off. It's just the way you express it might be a little bit different than me.
Yeah, no, I don't. I mean, so it's not so much. I mean, it's funny because I feel like that there's a certain portion of the fan base that that definitely wants you to, as a representative of, I would say, Cowboys Nation, right? Whether that's some of us bigger accounts that are on there, and I mean whether they consider me that or not, but I do feel like many do, and they want you to be positive. They hate it when they feel the perception of negativity, which, again, I've said many times, on my part, it's not negativity. It's just realistic expectations of what I believe and see in this team. Listen, if I thought this was a 10 to 11 win team, I'd be telling people. I'm not gonna. I haven't been that far off from our predictions the last couple of years when we've made our picks. I mean, I think last year, pre-injuries, I had this team pegged at 10 wins. And I think with a healthy Dak Prescott, I think they probably do win 10 games. I go back and I looked at the games, and I think they're probably about 9, 10 wins, right? I think there was 2 games there that I looked. I think the very last Washington game, and I think the Cincinnati game, that if we had Dak Prescott, we win those. And possibly if he doesn't go down in that Atlanta game, we might pull that out too. So that probably takes us from 7 to 10. The other games, there were blowouts. We weren't winning whether we had Dak or not. They might have been closer. We still would have got beat ultimately because those teams were just better than us, right? Yep. So I look at this team right now, and I look at it, in my opinion, it's an 8-win team. I think the frustrating thing for me is that the Cowboys had the opportunity and the salary cap money to go out, and really they could have filled all these holes. They could have went out and they could have signed a legitimate starter, a guy that you can plug in, a one tech next to Osa, where you're not having to depend on Mozzie Smith. Right now, you're depending on Mozzie Smith to improve. Everybody keeps saying, yeah, hopefully year 3 he'll develop. Look, year 1 he was bad. Year 2 he was bad. People keep talking about the flashes that he showed. Yeah, 1 or 2 games is not enough for me. I need him to flash in all 17 games. Like we need him to stop the run. Right now, we've got Osa and then a bunch of really unknowns in Mozzie Smith, right? So we got a couple of 7th-round picks that I understand people are talking about, but the realistic expectation of a 7th-round pick coming in and contributing, and I mean even making the roster, it's just a long shot. That's just the reality of it. And then when you look at wide receiver, they didn't address the wide receiver. These are all things that they could have done in that first wave of free agency, and they wouldn't have had to go out and spend, an absurd amount of money. They still could have grabbed a defensive tackle and a wide receiver too, and still made all the other free agent signings that they made and the trades that they made. They still could have done that, and they'd still have money left over to hit the second wave of free agency if they wanted to. And then at that point, if they would have done that through the first wave of free agency, I mean, if we would have got a starting caliber defensive tackle and a wide receiver too, I would be feeling over the top right now about this roster, because I would feel like, hey, look, we grabbed some linebackers, right? We grabbed a defensive tackle. We grabbed, then in the draft, we grabbed another, a guy who's considered an elite pass rusher. And, the mood would just be 100,000% different. It's just not, because of the way that the Cowboys refuse to attack free agency, and that they're so just set on the way that they do it, going after these guys that are former round first picks that they want to work out, and that they hope are going to work out, that we just don't know. So it's all of the unknowns for me. Could this roster surprise everybody, come out, Schottenheimer, and his staff kind of blow the doors off of things and surprise everybody? Yes, that is absolutely a possibility. But I'm setting myself up for the realistic expectations of an 8-win season, with the chance to, if obviously there's a 1 or 2 game swing in either direction. I mean, they could end up at 9 or 10. They could end up at 6 or 7. To be honest with you, if the run defense is not better significantly than it was last year, I mean, giving up damn near almost 100, 130, 140 yards a game is not a recipe for winning. So
yeah, no, I mean, those are all valid. Again, like I tell you, you're not saying anything. You're being real. And I think any Cowboys fan, I mean, we all feel that way, right? So it's just, how could they fix that? Like, what is their mindset? Like, why didn't they go get a true defensive tackle in free agency? Why didn't they go after a veteran wide receiver? It makes no sense. And they are just very narrow focused, narrow minded on the draft. The draft cures all. So the only hope, and again, I know Kelly, you always say hope. So the only hope that I can really tie my horse to is the defensive struggles is scheme. Because if you look at Eberflus, 4 years with the Colts, his run defense was top 10. His first year with the Bears, they were the worst run defense. Flipped the script and they were in the top. So scheme matters, but you got to have the personnel, and you just don't know if the personnel they have is going to fit and going to be able to execute his scheme. And that's where it's just the unknown. All my concern is right where you probably put most of your time, Kelly, and that's the defensive tackles. I feel better. I feel a little bit better about the cornerbacks. Not great. But Ravel I know he got injured early on last year, but he should be fine. I mean, ACLs are it's like pulling a hamstring nowadays. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to, people are saying, oh, he's injury prone. He had 1 injury in his whole career. I mean, it just happened to be then, which he would have been a first round pick if he played healthy, but he had 2 picks. Took 1 to the house in 3 games or something like that. So, and he's always around the ball. So I feel a little bit better with some depth there. The receiver, I got to think they're going to do something. I'd be shocked. I'd be absolutely floored if they don't do anything. With all the rumors swirling around, maybe they'll do something. But defensive tackle is really where I just don't understand why they didn't do it, unless they're that confident in the scheme. And that's the only thing I could go back to, because it's the only thing that makes sense. You have to be stupid not to look at our run defense. But I will say scheme matters, because Dan Quinn's defense couldn't stop shit against the run in Dallas, and he sure the hell didn't stop it in Washington. And they had a better defensive front than Dallas. They had legit defensive tackles, and they couldn't do it. So that's all I got. But I think they've gotten better, but I don't know if it's enough. Is it enough to get in the playoffs? Dak Prescott's still a pretty damn good quarterback. They won 7 games without him, but the schedule's harder, right? So that's the part that we just, you just don't know. And, we talked about the concerns. What other concerns Ronnie, do you have? Because I'm going to end it on a positive note. So we're going to get all this shit out of the way and then try and build up on what you think would be positive. But offensively, let's talk about offense. Where are you concerned outside of receiver?
Tight end. With Ferguson, I mean, kind of been waiting for that breakout year for 2 years. I know he got banged up and, we went down that road with him and that, but it never seems like we're getting that production out of him that we all want. We want the 65 catches, we want the 6-7 touchdowns a year out of him and that, and it never seems to happen with Shoemaker. I'm just not sold on Shoemaker. I don't feel like he's going to give us a quality backup there or be able to step in a starting role. And when we get into that, at tight end, then you start looking at holding down your edges on our run blocking and everything else. I mean, everybody else in our division got stronger on the defensive line when we're looking at that. And I mean, we got some running backs in the stable a little bit there now that can help us out. But it's just that tight end position. It just hasn't been right since, of course, the Witten days. And maybe we're a little spoiled that way.
And I got to take some of the blame for that. He's been hanging around Miami. He's engaged. So maybe the engagement's going to help. Maybe, but I mean, those Cavanagh girls, I'm not saying anything that people don't already know because they're all over social media. So they got no shame in it. I mean, those girls are all over the place and they can be distracting. So maybe he's more focused. He got the ring on the finger. She's graduating, all that stuff. So maybe he'll be refocused because he does have a lot of talent. And I know Kelly, you've talked about the tight ends, and he kind of let us down last year, but anything else that you want to add to the concerns on the offensive side?
Oh, of course, and then Dak staying healthy.
That's a given. Kelly, did you hear me?
Yeah, no, I don't really outside of wide receiver. That's really my biggest concern. I think the offensive line's going to be good. I think the offensive line coach that we got, really like him. I think he's going to be a big boost for this offensive line. Running back, I did talk about how I had posted, and that was a big thing that got a lot of people worked up when I said that, before the draft, needs were defensive tackle, running back, wide receiver. The reason why I said that running back is still a need there is because I think ultimately the running back position right now, I think the running back room that we have is better than last year. I do think it's better than last year, right? Where I would wonder though, and this is where I hate to go into a season, wondering is like you want to have. I wanted to have that one guy who I was just like, and I know maybe in the draft it's always kind of it's a crapshoot regardless, right? You don't really know what you're going to get out of him. I just wanted somebody that I looked at as more of a bell cow back for the fact of you get into a game, you need a guy, fourth quarter, you need a guy to kill the clock. We talked about that a lot last year, right? You need a guy that can run the clock down, run that ball consistently. Obviously, having an offensive line that can block well is going to help with that. But who's that guy, right? And I know Javonte Williams, is kind of looked at a guy that many think that he could be that guy. But what concerns me is that, people can't just assume that when a guy gets injured that he always bounces back to form, because it doesn't always happen in the NFL. There's many times we've seen it where guys get injured and they're just never the same again. Since his injuries that he's had from his rookie season, and then his sophomore season, and then the next two after, he went from averaging like 4.6 yards a carry to averaging about 3.6 yards a carry. The last two seasons was 3.7 and 3.6 last year, right? And Denver had a pretty good offensive line, I know, because I was able to watch them. That's a team that my girl roots for, and so I watched plenty of Denver, and I saw they had a pretty good offensive line last year. Their offensive line was legit, so that's concerning for me because 3.6 a carry is not very good. To put that in perspective, I think Zeke last year was somewhere around like 3.2 or something like that, right? So So I'm just saying, if we're going into this season and Javonte Williams isn't what we think he can be, if he doesn't return to form, right, then you're talking about really leaning on two rookies and Miles Sanders. And I know that Miles Sanders has done some things in the past too, but he's also dipped off and he's started to drop off a lot. That's just really not how I want to go into the season. I really wanted somebody that was a guy that you could hang your hat on. You know what I mean? And I think they could have gotten one of those guys, I felt like, in the first 3 rounds of the draft, because I just felt like there was plenty of those types of running backs that were available through the first 3 rounds. They didn't address it. So that was my only issue with the running backs. Again, I think this running back room has the potential to be really good this year. I think, with the fact that Williams can catch the ball out of the backfield really well. Blue is a guy who's known to catch the ball. They're pass catching running backs. And then you've got the guy from, was it Clemson? Maffa. And I mean, he's kind of a bruiser guy, a guy that you can come in and get some hard yardage stuff. And so is Williams. He's a short yardage kind of guy too. So I think ultimately it will be okay. I just am not as comfortable as I think that the Dallas Cowboys could have made me had they done something a little bit sooner. Because I mean, you look at some of these teams, there was several of these teams in the draft that double dipped with running back. They're like, you know what, we're going to get ourselves our, Montgomery and Gibbs. We're going to get ourselves our duo or whatever. So that's probably my only other concern. And then I would echo kind of on what Ronnie said about, Dak Prescott staying healthy, because the one thing that I don't feel like a lot of people are talking about is again, we're all assuming, yes, it was a hamstring and surgically repaired. They're saying Dak Prescott's good to go. He's ready. But, how many times have hamstrings been something that can nag a player, through I mean, Miles Austin is one of the first that comes to mind. Hamstrings, I feel like his hamstrings ruined him. You know what I mean? Once he got that first hamstring injury, it was just something that seemed to linger the rest of his career. And we're talking about one with Dak where it was just, completely torn off the bone. So, it don't get more severe than that. So I hope and I pray that that's not the case. But, because if Dak goes down, you're done again. But it's a little worrisome for me with that. Just the injuries, some of the significant injuries that some of our star players have suffered on this team, whether it be Diggs, Overshown, Dak. You've got some of our best players that are, coming back from some significant injuries.
No, it's a good. I do think I like Milton, and I'm Michael Irvin even said, he said, Dak better not get hurt. He better not get hurt. But we don't want Dak to get hurt, and because I think I agree with you. Cowboys go as he goes. One thing I would say, because we're going to flip to some things we feel good about, because I'm going to touch on it since you kind of talked about it. The running backs, and I heard the first three runs. I was with you, Kelly. I got to stand. On my laurels of I wanted playmakers early in that draft, and they didn't. They went against that, right, for the first round. But like anything, you just sleep on it and you think about it and say, man, you heard him talk. You heard he likes to just break people's will, and nothing feels better than seeing someone quit in front of you and all these different things he was saying. I'm like, all right, man, this guy's I'm buying into this, and just watching the tape from Alabama. So you see that, and then obviously they got the kid. I call him Easy E because I'll butcher his name, for Boston College. And he played in the ACC, so I've seen a little bit of him, but just that pass rushing ability, good against the run based off PFF, if that's what if you want to go by that. So he's a little undersized, which makes me think, could they possibly be going a 3-4 sometimes, which made me wonder. Then they get the cornerback. So I couldn't hate on them not getting a running back with the picks they took. The one thing I would say about Maffa from Clemson, I've watched him play. I've seen him torment my Hurricanes. Captain of the football team. He was a leader in the locker room. Dabo said one of the best players and people he ever had, just absolutely a guy you want leading your team. So then I'm thinking the mindset and the culture, what are they bringing in? And the Alabama kids the same way, leader of the team, captain of the team. They're bringing, both of them big schools. They're bringing in some guys. So I think mindset mattered to the Cowboys in this draft. But then I'm looking, at my boy Blue, and he could take it to the house at a moment's notice. So you talk about Gibbs, or you talk about, you know, Felix Jones for the Cowboys back in the day. You've got lightning, but I'm just telling you, if Javonte can't do it because he's hurt, don't sleep on the kid from Clemson. He is physical, he is mean, and he's a big boy. And if you need someone to grind it out like a barber, you know, that's where you just kept handing it to him. I think he's a guy that does it. So what makes me feel good, it makes me feel positive about this team, is I think they found an identity in this draft, and it's tough. It's going to be hard-nosed football. It's going to be smash mouth. You get the running backs, three-headed monster I talked about. I think Miles Sanders might be the odd guy out, and I just think the Cowboys, that's the mentality that they're going to have, and that's going to be the vision with Shoddy, the offensive line-minded OC. I mean, if everything is pointing to that and what they drafted, so that's the positive, because there is nothing more humiliating, and we know it as Cowboy fans, when you run the ball and you can't stop it. And I think the Cowboys have that opportunity with that interior line and with the running backs they have. So that's what makes me feel good about the offense. Ronnie, anything to add or anything different?
And it's the same way. I kind of feel in that same mentality with you, because the past years, it's always been, we're going to pass the ball to open up the run and not run the ball to open up the pass, you know. And every time we were like that and we go to start doing it, the 2 yards of carry on first downs, handing off the ball every time, it doesn't cut it. And also, like you were saying, the people that they drafted, it seemed like they drafted a bunch of leaders, a bunch of captains for their teams, and that nature. And hopefully it results in winning the close games. You know, those are the ones that we're winning, the losing in the trenches. Of course, with that DT still, you know, it's not quite there, but I feel like they went younger, and hopefully Micah takes over now. With the DeMarcus Lawrence being gone and everything like that, of course, with all that stuff that happened with them, hopefully that attitude that Micah has, what he wants to bring, hopefully the whole defense runs that way. You know, you got a lot of young players and a lot of key positions on defense that is exciting to play. You know, you get to see them play. I'd rather see them play big, and if you lose big, lose big. Don't play back and lose that way. You know, hopefully being aggressive, fly to the ball, move the ball, run aggressive, let these big linemen go to work for you, you know, and it's going to be exciting. I mean, and even to get to see BB in a second year at center, I think that's going to play big for him. I think they're finally going to get into that point, and I think it's going to run better that way. I just do. And hopefully that's what I'm hoping for, is that we're able to run first to open up the pass instead of vice versa. Because, I mean, you know how we do it. Every single game, we're sitting there at 30 yards at halftime, and we're getting them the points. It's starting to come up. And then we finish with 140 yards rushing for the game, 160 yards. But it's just because of that.
This team is, I mean, Dak is better when you can run the football. I mean, we got to be able to run, and I think that's the mindset they have. Now, I'm going to say this. This is my gripe with Kelly. I'm going to tell you this right now, Kelly, and I want you to answer because you're quick to pull out the trivia, and I know you made fun of our 7th-round defensive tackle. I want you to tell me one Samoan that has been a defensive lineman in the NFL that hasn't been a badass. Give me one, because we got one in Toya, and he's Samoan. So that's the hope I have, because I mean, the dude that was at the Ravens, the guy at the Bucks, I mean, they're usually, man, space eaters, and they're badasses. So I'm going with the wild Samoan, man. You got to give me someone that's never been good.
I hope you're right. I wasn't trying to break anybody's spirit. I'm never trying to be down. I'm never trying to be down on a guy. Obviously, I know that, you know, I want every single pick that we got to make this team and to be a significant contributor, because if that's the case, then the Cowboys hit a home run, and that means good things for the roster. So I was curious, though, because here's the thing. Last year, I was upset that we didn't draft any defensive tackles. And somebody goes, no, we drafted a defensive tackle in the 7th round. And I remember them saying, and I remember kind of brushing that off and saying, look, man, I'm not thinking that a 7th-round defensive tackle is going to contribute, right? And I was getting told, you know, you're not giving him a chance. Let's see how it plays out. And he got 0 snaps on the 29th ranked run defense. 0. He didn't get on the field at all, right? So this year, when people were telling me again, they're like, hey, we got 2 7th round. I thought, you know what? I'm going to look and see when the last time a 7th round draft pick defensive tackle made an NFL roster, and it was 2018 with the Miami Dolphins. So you have to think from 2018 to 2025, 7 seasons, 7 years of drafts, right? And think about how many defensive tackles have probably been drafted in the 7th round. I would wager that it's probably going to be somewhere in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and you've got one. So it's not that I don't think this Towel kid can be good. It's just that it's a long shot. It's just kind of like me. I don't want to say anything negative about our undrafted free agent wide receiver, Josh Kelly from Texas Tech. I loved him at Texas Tech. Thought he was great. Big playmaker. He was a guy that always seemed like on a 3rd down play, we could throw the ball to him and depend on him. And he consistently made big plays, catches in traffic, physical wide receiver. But even as a Tech fan, I know it's a long shot for him to make the roster. I think it's a long shot for these defensive tackles, either one of them, to make the roster, let alone make an impact. So I'm not hanging my hat on the fact that we got 2 7th round defensive tackles.
You got me.
I hope.
You got me a Samoan. I'm just telling you, man. I'm just being real. You give me one guy, but I'd say is undrafted free agents, defensive tackles. Go look at the ones who got paid. You know, maybe they weren't 7th round; they were worse. Maybe that's a problem. A 7th round jinx on them. But no, I'm obviously I'm just teasing.
Yeah, no, I know. And hey, look, I like that kid. I know I heard from several people, and I did some research myself to look and verify and make sure there were a couple of draft guys in there, and I think it was Dane Brugler that had him. Is he was ranked? I think he had him in 4th or 5th round. That he had a 4th or 5th round grade on him. So I mean, he was graded out better for some reason. He slipped. Maybe it was just the talent at other levels. Because obviously with all the talent at running backs and the run on running backs, because man, boy, did they get gobbled up. That probably makes other guys, slip further than they might have. You know what I mean? So anytime that you have one position that's really stacked at talent, that means another position slips. So maybe we got lucky. This guy slips down and we get a good guy. And, if nothing else, man, I've seen our boy Mark McDonald in there. If nothing else, we could put Mark up there. Because, look, what does DTs do? They take up space. My boy Mark McDonald could take up some space.
Hey, if anything,
Cuts he wants to remind you, you named all those guys that didn't make it, but were they Samoan?
Yeah. Hey, and not only that, all they got to do is be better than Mozzie.
Yeah.
We got the worst DT in the league right now. It's kind of sad on them Monday nights when they show his PFF grade and he's ranked like number 60. 160 something out of 160 something. It's just, and so heck, or maybe he'll put some pressure on him at least anyway.
Yeah. Well, and just to change subjects a little bit, get your guys' thoughts on the draft. This was very odd. Like this draft just had a bunch of, it wasn't so top heavy, but there was a lot of talent at that next level. And, I look at, no further than, and and you watch this guy, he's going to be a playmaker. I'm just promise you this. Xavier Restrepo. People get caught up. Oh, he didn't run a good 40 time in his pro day. So he goes undrafted. He was, a lot of draft projections had him in the 2nd round a month ago. You know what I'm saying? And you saw a lot of these receivers fall, and you saw some of these running backs fall that we thought were going to be higher. And this draft was it was really odd. So I don't want to get hung up on where the guy was drafted in the round and this and that. Drafted, because to your point, Kelly, I agree. They brought in some receivers, but do you think that any of the receivers they got undrafted free agents are better than what they have on the roster? And that's really the problem at receiver is they wait, and they didn't really do anything. They get some guys, but it's really not an upgrade. So let me get your thoughts on the draft overall. Did you see a lot of guys slipping, Ronnie, that kind of surprised you?
Yeah, I did. And what it felt like is the line started disappearing. Everybody started going line, and then it seemed like people started reaching for the line. And once that happened, you started seeing these people that should have been picked, they start dropping back. And it's to see some of the receivers, Luther Burden and all them, how they slid back. and how to see some of the people that were picked before him.
We thought we were going to get him. Like, what if he fell to our pick? I mean, would we have rioted in the streets if they wouldn't have taken a receiver?
I mean, we should have known better, knowing Jerry was going to let us down one more time, and stuff like that. But it just you've seen the players there, some of the running backs that were there, and they just it just was it showed. I just felt like the draft was very top heavy, and you've seen the talent shrink really, really quick. And then you've seen them certain players there, and even Etienne, I mean, from Georgia, I wouldn't mind kicking the tires on him. I know he's injury prone. He has a lot of injuries, but I mean, if he could run anything like his brother, I mean, it's in the NFL. It would have been something nice, and that. But it just, I felt like the talent was the line. People reach for the line. And I think with Dallas, I think that kind of probably really started it in that when they went there and they didn't go receiver. I think a lot of people started reaching. You see Houston. Houston needed line at the end of the first round. There was nothing there. They had to slide back, and it just,
No, I mean it's a lot of that BC guys. So Kelly, was there anyone that where did Taj Brooks end up? Did he go?
He went to the Bengals. I think he went in the 6th round to the Bengals.
Yeah. And we thought he would be a 4th, 5th. I mean, Damian Martinez was 6th round. I thought he would have went 3rd.
Yeah.
Some people said 3rd, 4th for him. And I mean,
when you were 7th round.
Yeah.
I mean, that it's quality backup anyway.
I heard that speaking of people that got slipped, I actually heard that Shador got drafted in the 3rd. Well, that was a prank call. Never mind.
Hey, speaking of prank call, did you see they released, and are we going to have the same intensity? Graham got prank called by some kids from Tampa.
I saw that.
And I haven't seen any fines from the NFL I think that's ridiculous. Look, man, like I said before, I don't think it was cool. I don't think it was right, but prank calls have been done since the beginning of time. And
they have.
It is what it is. Life goes on. You'll survive.
You know what, Mike, and that's my whole thing about it. I get how people are like, but this or that or whatever. I understand both sides of it, but my whole thing is this: nobody was physically harmed. If anything, it embarrassed somebody a little bit. It embarrassed Shador. It embarrassed the whatever guys that actually fell for it. I'm gonna be honest, man. I mean, if I could call somebody the NFL office with Jerry Jones' voice and do a prank like that, I'd probably do it, man. I mean,
you called someone as Jerry. You and I, you called someone.
I did. I called
You called a team.
I called one of the teams. I think it was maybe the Denver Broncos front office or something like that. I was talking about maybe making a trade for somebody. Or I called somebody's office and left a voice message.
You should have called in a receiver in this draft.
That's what I'm saying, man. I should have called and drafted a wide receiver, man. The pick is in.
But yes, I mean that was I don't know. It was kind of crazy. It was kind of crazy.
I thought so too. I saw that they got the defensive coordinator. He got a fine. They fined him like $100,000.
I think he got 100. The team got 250. I think it was.
Yeah.
Then he had to issue an apology, and he called the Dion, and the father called and apologized. The son had to. I mean, come on. It's just,
it's a little crazy, man. I mean, people get pranked and punked and stuff all the time, man. It happens, man. It happens.
Yeah. So
I'm sure it humbles Shador for sure. It had to happen. I mean,
what's funny is with not to get too much into another team or whatever, but the Cleveland Browns. I kind of like the strategy what they did there though, because they drafted Dylan Gabriel. And then in the 5th decided, you know what, this is, the talent's still here. And we feel like we've got, we're not going to contend this year. Cleveland, I think, is realizing they're not going to contend this year. They're going to build for next year, but they're set up to be really good next year. I think they added some really good talent to their roster this year, but now you've got Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, 2 rookie quarterbacks that can sit back there and compete. And then there are 2, I think they got 2 veteran
They
guys.
got Flacco and somebody else.
Flacco and somebody else. So
Forgot the other guy.
yeah, so you've got these rookies that'll be able to compete during your training camp and maybe sit back and develop during this year. Maybe 1 or 2 of them. Maybe they get a little bit of playing time during the year. But then you've got the talent that they drafted this year. Then with the trade that they made, they're going to have 2 first-round picks next year. So I mean, they got. And if they decide that they want to trade for one of these quarterbacks, the Dylan Gabriel or maybe Shedeur Sanders, maybe they decide to trade one and get more than what they drafted for him because, QB needy teams get a little bit desperate. So I like what Cleveland did in the draft. It's funny because, they've been kind of a joke for a pretty long time. They've been a pretty bad team. They've had a couple of decent seasons recently with some of that, good defensive players that they had drafted. They kind of all those number 1 picks, seemed like number 1 Cleveland was like number 1 every year. Yep. But, to see what they're kind of doing now and what they're building and to see what their vision is, that's encouraging for a team like that. It's what I get a little bit jealous of sometimes because I can look at other teams around the league and see kind of how they're moving in free agency and how they're moving in the draft. And I know what I'm like, I can see what that team's vision is. That team, they have a vision, right? And it confuses me with the Cowboys because I've been really blurred to what the vision is for the Dallas Cowboys. I think it's starting to come a little bit more clear for me after the draft and was seeing some of the things that Schottenheimer's talked about, valuing speed. He does like the fact somebody posted a clip today to one of my tweets that and it was comments by Schottenheimer talking about the value of a running back that can catch the ball coming out of the backfield, right? Because, yes, we want to run the ball, but teams can set up to stop that. So you need to be able to counter that. You have your running back lined up in the backfield, but bring him out and be able to catch a little swing pass out of the backfield, turn that into something. So I'm kind of starting to see a little bit of where the vision is heading, but sometimes it feels like a man in the middle of 2 horses and is getting pulled both ways. You know what I mean? You got Schottenheimer going one way, you got Jerry kind of. So I don't know, man. We'll see. But hopefully my hope is though that they don't set up, Dak Prescott and Schottenheimer to fail. They've got a new first-time head coach. You're not doing him any favors by not getting him everything he needs. And Dak Prescott, you just signed him to this big high money dollar deal. You got to get him some weapons, man.
Yeah. And I mean, it would feel good if we can get a nice jolt, one jolt before training camp, whether a nice trade, get somebody in here to make you feel pretty good that, all right, these guys, they mean business. Because I think, like you said, Kelly, the draft was good. It filled some needs. It wasn't sexy in any way, but I mean, I thought they stuck to their board and they hit some home runs, and I think they got a lot of value and a lot of good football players, good character guys, good leaders, good locker room, good, dogs mentality on the field. So I think they did that. But to your point is, man, we need some juice, and we need some juice at defensive tackle, and we needed a wide receiver. So we're still kind of waiting for that. So hopefully that'll happen. But, just kind of put a bow on this. And then Ronnie, definitely want to talk to you maybe a little bit more about your cave is, realistic expectations. I know you said 8 wins, Kelly. You don't see this team as a playoff team in the NFC? You have the top 7 teams. You don't see them as a playoff team today?
Me?
You?
No, they're borderline. I think that it would take in my opinion, it would take them exceeding expectations and some of the players that we got, some of these newly drafted players to make impacts where I don't really see them making it. Like that Tawa, how you say his name, him making the roster and making a significant type of impact would be something that would be a plus, right? Eberflus's scheme coming in and having an impact year 1 and taking that terrible run defense up. If we got this run defense to where they were top 15, it was a top 15 run defense. And if we were able to get another wide receiver even if it's an Amari Cooper or a Keenan Allen, I know everybody talks about how much those dudes are washed. They say they're washed, whatever. They're both better than what we've got right now at number 2. They just are, man. And I know Jalen Tolbert last year, he had a pretty productive season. He ended up with 7 touchdowns and like 600 yards. Maybe he can take the next leap, but he's just not who I want to depend on as my number 2. Mingo, is a guy that gets talked about and stuff. Just not the guy that I want to depend on as my number 2, because these guys are guys that we have to hope on. I feel we already got enough hope on this roster. We got enough guys that we're already hoping on. We need to get some guys who we know what we can get out of them. I think Amari Cooper and Keenan Allen would bring, production to that number 2 wide receiver spot. So it's borderline for me, man. It wouldn't surprise me if we slipped into a wild card spot, but it wouldn't surprise me if we missed the playoffs altogether this year, unfortunately.
Before I jump to Ronnie, what is your percentage the Cowboys make a trade for a receiver?
For a trade, as far as the trade goes, I kind of feel like that opportunity went away after the draft ended, because if you know what I'm saying, why? Because if a team really wanted to trade a wide receiver, wouldn't they want to have something back for them this year? What good does it do to trade him now after the draft? So unless the Cowboys put together like a really aggressive package and just kind of blow some team away, or there's just a guy who's a trouble head case and he's trying to push his way out as bad as he can, and a team gets to like, you know what, to hell with it, let's get rid of him. Let's get some. I give it probably about a 20% chance that they trade for a wide receiver. I think that, honestly, I watched Cowboys Fan Talk. He had a video that he put out this morning when he was driving in his car, a little short video. I agree with him. I think that the Cowboys they're stringing us along. They're talking about, well, we tried to get Pickens, we made some calls on Pickens, we thought about, making some moves for Cortland Sutton. We thought, now they're talking about, well, we got some interest in Amari Cooper, but I think eventually Amari Cooper will get scooped up, Keenan Allen and eventually they're going to end up to where there's nobody left for them to get. And then they're going to be at that point where they're going to say, yeah, you know what? We're really going to have to roll into the season with our guys. We tried to make some moves. It didn't work out. Blah, blah, blah. Same shit they did with kind of like with the running back last year. It's like, hey, we thought about doing this. We looked at this, and then ultimately this is what we landed on. I think we're going to end up going into the season. Honestly, I think we're going to go in with Mingo and Tolbert.
Not even a free agent, like one of those guys. Not because they're.
I really don't. At this point, I don't. I just don't think that they're going to. I think that there's a push. They said that, I saw that they said there's a push internally, and I think that's probably from the coaching staff to get a wide receiver. I think Schottenheimer wants. I think he wants one. I really do. I have to think that he wants one. I just don't. I think that Jerry, it feels like he's, he always feels like he's the smartest guy in the room. And I feel like he thinks this Mingo thing is going to work out for him, because he traded a 4th round pick for him last year. You know what I mean? So in his mind, he did get a wide receiver. It's just not the guy that we want.
That's the way they like to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah. It really is, because you think about how many times that the Cowboys have made these moves and you're sitting there kind of scratching your head like, okay, but that's not enough. We need a little bit more. And Jerry's like, no, we invested. And that's what he'll tell everybody all year long. We invested a 4th round pick in a wide receiver. And we think he's got the capability to be number, all those same lines that they always feed us. So I don't see us doing anything at wide receiver. I wish we would, but I'm not holding my breath.
What do you think, Ronnie? What is your expectations? What do you think this team can they be? Do you see them in the playoffs today?
It just depends. I think if we stay healthy, if we have to stay healthy on
all teams healthy. We're talking this. Is this a playoff caliber roster today?
I'm gonna say yes. I'm not gonna say win the division. I'm gonna say maybe getting in 6 seats, 7 seats, somewhere around in there. If the defense does play like I think they're gonna be able to play and fly around to the ball and actually see our defense win some games for us instead of the offense always carrying the weight. I think if that does happen, I think with the roster that they got, I think they're young. And sometimes you just got to not know any better. And I think if they can do that and fly to the ball and carry that character with them, I think they can. And a lot of times it always happens. You see it whenever you bring in a new scheme. There's not always film on this new scheme, especially with the defense coming in. And that it doesn't, you see them catch traction and stuff. and it doesn't get figured out towards later in the season. Once you start getting a lot of film on it, kind of the same way with the quarterbacks and that. But you see it that they can go out and start making waves. I'd like to see them move Micah around a little bit more. But I think if they do those things and the defense comes up and they fly, like I think they're going to be able to do it. I think they can get in as a 6 or a 7 seed. I think that they can.
Yeah, I think that's kind of right now. I wouldn't say they're division winners, but I would say they're in that playoff hunt. They're in that playoff because you got. I mean, Dak. I mean, say what you want when he's healthy, and we hope he's healthy. He's still one of the top quarterbacks in the NFC easily, and it's a quarterback-driven league. I honestly, even if they didn't get a receiver, I think the offense is going to be fine because I think they're going to be smash mouth, and I think they're going to be okay. It's the defense. It's going to come down to those defensive tackles, and it's going to come down to the health of the secondary, and that's the hope that Kelly, always says we have. That's the only hope you have, and that's why I kept coming back to scheme. To your point, can Eberflus's scheme optimize every ounce of talent on this defense? And like I said, it gives me thought that maybe you got the big Simone, maybe there's thoughts of them going 3-4, when you get the other, you got the lineman, you got Fowler there, and you got Parsons, and you can move guys and maybe do some hybrid here and there, not run full 3-4, but in situational type, plays to take advantage of Micah Parsons and take advantage of Eazy-E and take advantage of Fowler is maybe they do some of that because, like, I think Kelly, we didn't even really talk about it. Linebacker without Overshown, little thin. They got some free agents, but a little thin. Maybe that would help optimize and take advantage of some of that. That's the only hope I got right now.
Yeah.
So do y'all think that these guys, and I'm not sure about the legal side of it, and Dallas has never really had a worry about that. They've always said, heck with it. Do you think Isaiah Bond might be somebody that they do kick the tires on? That they do say, hey, bring them in. I mean, I know with everything else that's going on, but it's just Dallas has never shied away from something like that to get them at a discount. And
I mean, I'm always sensitive to sexual assault, being a father of a daughter, if he, I read some of the stuff, and I know some of that can get real tricky. I know that can get real tricky, especially in college and everything that kind of happens, and you got a football player and all this kind of stuff. So I'd have to really know 100% sure that he's innocent of, there better be some good due diligence there.
Yeah. I think right now, I don't think he's going to get touched until, because I mean, if the charge sticks, I mean, he's looking at jail or prison time. I mean, it's rape, right? I mean, he's going to prison. He ain't gonna be playing football anywhere except, he'll be a different kind of wide receiver. So, and just again, obviously, we live in a country where you're innocent until proven guilty. But I mean, some of at least the evidence that has been put out to the public is pretty damning. I mean, it's almost an admission of him saying that he did it. Not quite in those words, but I mean, the victim, kind of. They sent a text to him with the police right there, and saying that I told you no, and he responded and said, I'm sorry. Like, I mean, that's if I mean, I don't know about you, but if somebody texted me telling me that that I raped him and they said that I told you no and I didn't, I'd be like, what in God's name are you talking about? Like, this was consensual. Like, what do you mean? We both, like, what do you mean you told me no? Like, was I not in the same room? So that right there seems like some pretty damning evidence against the young man. I mean, again, I'm not going to condemn anybody and convict him right here in the court of public opinion, but the evidence right now that's against him does not look good for the guy. So I'm going to say no. I say I know that the Cowboys have in the past, not really had a problem with, with guys like that have had some, sketchy past. But I would say in this right there, I think that all these owners kind of steered clear of him for a reason. He didn't get signed as an undrafted free agent when that first wave hit. I don't think it's going to happen until his case is over, because honestly, I think he's probably going to end up in jail. Unfortunately.
And I can deal with drugs. Like I could deal with a guy who wants to. I don't do drugs, but if you're hurting yourself, like we've had like the Gregorys and the ones that had some drug history and substance abuse and kind of demons that they couldn't get past. I can overlook all that kind of stuff. I mean, a couple of things that's hard to overlook is like murder and sexual assault. Those are two things that make it hard to kind of look past.
Right.
So but
anyway. I feel you. I don't think they'll get another receiver. I don't think they'll trade for one.
Yeah.
I think they'll roll, and if they do trade for one, it's going to be during the season. I think it'll be week 2, 3, 4. If it's just not rolling the way they want it to roll, they're not getting the push that they're getting with the running game, and then I think they'll.
And that's the frustrating part, right? Because you could have took care of it and had an off season and had a training camp with that receiver, but you're going to wait and see if things go okay, or if they go bad, maybe we'll make a move. And that's the part that frustrates every Cowboys fan to no end, is because like Kelly said, you got the money, you got the cap, you got everything. You just get the shit done. Let's go and train camp with the best possible roster that can contend. Let's not screw around with it. But
you start seeing Turpin being your second most explosive receiver, and then it becomes hard after that.
Well, no, I agree, but no, man, I appreciate. I wanted to wrap it up with, you've got the man cave, and I'm a man cave person, and I think I thought maybe I reached out to you one time. Maybe I did. I want to do shows with people's man caves, and like we tell stories, just more shooting the stuff. And what is in your cave, like your most prized possession, something that just means the world to you? It doesn't have to be the most expensive. It doesn't have to be the glam, but just when you look in that cave, like there's certain things when I go in my cave, I kind of look at it and it tells a story. Like everything tells a story. What's one you got?
Well, it's a couple of things. I mean, it's, of course, when I got to meet Dak, I got to take my dad. Me and my dad went over there, and we got to do that. So a lot of the memorabilia I have is, of course, a lot of the people that I've met before, and I'm a football fan. I love football. I mean, of course, Cowboys I'm a Cowboy guy. And that, but like a lot of the things I've done, I go with my family. I have 3 daughters, and so they'll drag them with me, and we go and we do these things and stuff like that. So I mean, of course, you start ending up with too much stuff and it's just kind of one of those things that, every little piece in here kind of gives you a little bit of a different memory, of somebody that I went with, whether it was my wife or one of my girls and stuff like that. And, so I have a helmet that's signed by Dak, and we met Dak and Cole Beasley in the same day. Me and my dad did, and that was pretty good. That's, something that I cherish a lot. And then I went with my daughter, my middle daughter, and each one of my daughters that I went with, I ended up getting all the 88s. I got Dez, CD, Drew Pearson, and Michael on a helmet. But what's pretty neat is I went and I did Drew by myself, but then the rest of them, I was with each one of my girls for the other 3 in that. So that was pretty neat to see that helmet. I got, all 3 of my girls I carry. It's a pretty good memory, that I have. Let me turn my light on real quick.
Yeah, Michael Irvin, the craziest thing is he's my favorite guy. I met him only once when I was maybe 15 years old, and it was before you kind of took pictures with people. So the only picture I have is you see my hand sticking out. That's the only part of me you see with Michael Irvin shaking his hand. It was probably like maybe 1990, like his rookie year, second year, or something like that. But
and Irvin was so awesome. I mean, I was with my youngest daughter, and he came over there and he gave her a hug, and it was all, let's take a picture together and all that. So this is that's my Dak helmet. It's actually got Dak, CD, and Zeke on it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I was with my dad when we did that one, and that. So that's, carries a good memory with me in that. And then
so when you got like those guys, was it at like they were doing an event, or was it at a game?
Yeah, they were doing events, doing memorabilia shows,
and
stuff like that. And then there's all my 88s and that. And
Nice. Old school helmet like that.
Yeah. So, yeah, I did that with my girl. So that one carried pretty good. And then, so this is a pretty good little morning ritual for me as on game days. So we come in and so I'm sitting here like this. So, of course, the morning ritual is you come in. Of course, we were playing Green Bay that day. The fingers got to go up to Green Bay, and we go about our day, and all that. So when we do that, that's just the way it is. That's the morning ritual. We come in, shoot the finger at whoever the hell we're playing, and let's move on. You know what I mean? And it's the same way. I mean, we go over there and then got the
Nice.
AFC over here on this other side and that. And
Nice.
yeah, so we just kind of do the same thing. The only people I hadn't met in here, I didn't get to meet Mahomes and Brady, but I mean, I
So
got
all those helmets are signed?
They're all signed.
Holy Jesus.
Yeah, so got to meet Terrell Davis, Curtis Martin, Daniel Tomlinson, Bo Jackson, Zach Thomas, Jason Taylor, Thurman Thomas, Ray Lewis, Ocho Cinco, Heinz Ward, Bernie Kosar, Fred Taylor, Sean Watson, Chris Taylor, Edgar James. And on the NFC, Russell Wilson, Marshall Faulk, Christian McCaffrey, Mike Singletary, Aaron Jones. Pretty cool on the Aaron Jones.
Please, not Aaron Jones. What did we put on?
Well, he actually wrote Des Caught on it. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, that's right. Hey, we got
evidence. So I went to Lambeau and I met him over there, and he actually wrote Des Caught on it. And then Adrian Peterson, Kurt Warner, Warren Sapp, Mike Vick, Kamara, Randall Cunningham, and Lawrence Taylor. Yeah.
Wow.
So
that's a beautiful.
That's impressive as shit,
isn't it? I mean, geez, man.
Yeah, man.
No so Texas Tech. Where's the Texas Tech helmet? I missed it.
Oh well.
Hey, it said Pat Mahomes.
Yeah. Hey, there you go. Well, and so I mean, we got what I got up here in college, but my daughter works for OU, and she works in the financial department for the athletic side. So it's pretty cool. Get into any game, and that we usually go to the OU football games and that, and be able to get on the sidelines and all that good stuff, and get to hang out there. It's a pretty neat experience in that.
You see Barry Switzer there?
He actually has his house right across from the campus. My daughter's office is in the football stadium, and that there, so it's pretty neat. I mean, get to do a lot of stuff. She says she talks to DeMarco Murray on a daily basis, and pretty neat.
Well, tell him to come in the Cowboys cave. Hook a brother up.
hey, that's something I might have to try to be able to swing in that. She does. She gets to interact with a lot of the players and stuff.
Yeah. Nice.
That's pretty. I mean, I think that. I mean, beautiful. Because I almost was going to ask you, and you pretty much answered it. See, like my cave. The only thing I have in here outside of Dallas is Miami, and it's just I got a 2000 team helmet that I got at Canes Fest and met all the guys, and it was like the unbelievable team. So I have that, but I don't have anything else in here. So outside this room, I built like a little game room, and I was, did a few pictures, and my son gave me crap saying, how could you put a Raider? I have a Raider picture up and outside, but it's the Tecmo Bowl Bo Jackson.
Yeah.
So I got it signed. He doesn't sign that anymore. And I got it signed. So I said, look, man, that like outside there is okay. Can't do it in here, but outside there. So I was curious if you have other teams in there, but I mean, with that much space, I mean, unbelievable. That's a movie.
That's pretty sweet
stuff. Also, in that, I mean, I got a lot of other basketball. I got probably like, I don't know, 40, 50 basketball shoes that are signed, different players and stuff like that. A lot of NBA players in that. But one thing it's neat being able to do all this is getting to meet them, you getting to see their character, see what they're like actually as a person, and doing that. But like some of these people, you could just see it. And with Deshaun Watson, I met Deshaun Watson when he was coming out of Clemson, and he was just not a very friendly person. He was drafted by Houston, And I was there in Houston, and he wasn't talking to the Houston fans. He wasn't talking to nobody. And I met Jalen Smith that day. Jalen Smith was there. That's why I went. And he was just not that person. And I was like, man, I told my buddy about it. He's a Texan fan. I said, man, he was just not a very good person. And then all this stuff popped out, and it was like, well, you know.
If you'd have been a massage therapist, that'd have been a different story.
Well, yeah. I got to meet Shador about 3 years ago when he was at Jackson State, and that I got to meet him over there, and it was funny. I went to a show, and I met Amari Cooper that day, and he was there. They were signing autographs for $15 an autograph. Him and Shiloh. Shador was. Him and Shiloh were both there, and I thought, and I was like, should I do it? Should I not do it? And I had an extra football with me, and I said, man, why not? Why not? And what was crazy is I had a black football, and I actually got to sign them in gold, and that before they went to Colorado, and that.
Oh, nice.
And when I met them, Shador was pretty humble. He was friendly. He was talkative. He was he was a good guy, and I was like, man. And then to see how everything went out, that kind of,
yeah.
Kind of weird.
But yeah, I mean, do you think he gets a bad rap because he's Deion's kid, or do you think he's just that? I mean, there's a fine line between. I don't mind a guy to have some swag, some confidence, a little bit of, a little bit of, I'm the best I'm the best player. Like, I mean, you want that, right? I mean, competitive nature.
I don't see an issue with that, but just understand you're not Deion.
Yeah.
I don't mind the confidence. Just understand you're not your dad yet.
Right.
I mean, your dad was that he was somebody else, and you're not that guy yet. And so, I mean, I just kind of
yeah. Well, talking about Deion, I want to ask Kelly and you guys. So I was talking to a buddy of mine, and we're talking about Shador. We're talking about this whole situation, and we're talking about Deion. Do you think Deion is probably top 5 greatest football players to play the game?
I'm going to go a step further. I'm going to say top 3.
Okay.
I'm going to say he's top 3. And when I say that is because I don't think there is anybody else that can do exactly what he did. Yeah. I mean, people shut down sides of fields, but then to turn around and be a kick returner and be explosive that way, and then to turn around and be a receiver and be explosive that way, and then to do it in that era, I mean, he brought a different athleticism to the game before it was the way it is now,
Yeah. What do you think, Kelly?
Yeah, no, you'll get no argument from me on that. I definitely think he's one of the best to ever do it in terms of pure athlete. So, I mean, you hear a lot of people. I think there's been a lot of people, of his former teammates, that have kind of said that, in terms of just pure athletic ability, he's pretty good. Which will be interesting to watch and see, the trajectory that Travis Hunter goes on. I'm very interested in kind of how his career plays out, because, look, man, I mean, I don't know what, I think that dude would probably succeed no matter what he did. I saw some highlights of that dude playing basketball, and I mean, dude looked like he could suit up and play in the NBA today. It's just, I mean, and I know that, there's, you could be pretty talented, but I mean, he just seems like that anything that he tries his hand at, that he just like blows you away with some of his just natural abilities. So, there's been talk about, how it's going to translate as far as will he play both sides? Will he play both ways? Can somebody in the NFL, today's NFL, do it? And I mean, I think he's up for the task. Now it's just a matter of, is Jacksonville is they gonna do that? Are they gonna let him? You know what I mean? Because the thing is, right? Let's say he comes out and he's a stud defensive back. Like, do you risk injury? Because anytime somebody's on the field that much, fatigue starts to play in. So how much do you put him at wide receiver? If you play him at wide receiver, how much would you put him in at DB? I feel like he's probably got a better value at defensive back personally, but I wouldn't count it against him to see him do both. You know what I mean? And why not? I mean, it's going to make for some pretty riveting television if they do. If I'm the coach, GM, or whatever, I'm thinking about what I can, all these marketing things that I can do with Travis Hunter. So yeah, I agree with you on Dion. Travis Hunter's the next guy that I think that has a chance to maybe enter the conversation possibly, because he sure as hell did it in college.
Yeah. No, he's, I mean, Jacksonville is just, that's the best thing that happened to that franchise in a long time. And it just put a jolt in him, and they paid a heavy price trading up.
They did.
And, Cleveland, I mean, geez, what a steal for them to get Graham and then get a first round pick, which I think we all probably agree Jacksonville's probably not there yet. So it's probably going to end up being a top 12 or better pick, season. So,
just real quick, I was gonna, you said something earlier in the show, and I was gonna say it, but I forgot about it. If the Dallas Cowboys marketing team does not have T-shirts before the beginning of the season that say "You're my boy, Blue," they're losing out. They're losing out, man. Because as soon as they drafted him, I thought that's the first thing I thought was "You're my boy, Blue," and I'm thinking to myself, the marketing right there, man. Dallas Cowboys, they're gonna have to market that shit.
It'll be on the jumbotron every time he runs for a first down or something like that. Watch, they're gonna have that. They're gonna have what's the name saying that. So
yep, exactly.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. Well, we've been kicking it for almost an hour and a half with our fan of the month, and again, I mean, set the bar higher and higher and higher. So we will be looking for our next fan of the month. So definitely give Kelly a DM, or you can DM me as well. I'll get it over to Kelly, and we'll be doing it again. But Ronnie, just an absolute great time, man. And I'm being serious. We could pre-record it even. It doesn't have to be live. It could be during the day or something. But I wanted to do that with some people because I love memorabilia. That's my passion outside of some other stuff. And I love collecting. I love the stories. I love meeting and hearing how you met different people and sharing some war stories. So if you're ever interested, I will give you a message, and maybe we could set a time up and kind of put something together. It'd be really cool.
Yeah, definitely. I'm actually, and I'm even working on something that I came across, and it's I'm pretty excited about it. I'm curious to see how it's gonna. It's been a pain. I'm trying to get it all going, and just to try to get it working and everything. But so with the screens I got behind me, and then even with the ones that I have over there, and I kind of got everything all kind of tied in together. So there's a thing called a connected room, and through connected room, it hooks up everything to it, and I'm working on it. I'm trying to get everything going, and so what it does, it actually streams live with the game, and when it does it, it'll go off, and I'll hit like a test mode there. Didn't pop up actually. Let's see. But so when it does it, your screens and all that will start going off, and it actually plays the music that it plays inside the stadium.
Really?
And yes, and it all starts going off, and so when it does that, it'll do it, and I'm in the mix tomorrow. As you see how it's starting to go off, so it starts doing all that. And then afterwards, it'll come on the intercom. CeeDee Lamb scores from 63 yards out. It'll play it on the intercom. But then the lights and everything, as you could tell, like it did it. You can see my lights flashing inside the helmets and all that.
Helmets,
yeah, you can see it there. See how it's flashing and everything.
Yeah.
It'll do that with all my lights that are in here. It'll start flashing all my lights. And then I'm gonna have fog machines actually hooked up, and it'll start shooting out fog from the fog machines.
But Thunderstruck, Cuts wants to know, we're doing.
Yes, it actually does. It actually does, but it does it all automated. You don't have to push nothing. All you do is you push that you're watching that game, and it does everything else on its own. So you set all your screens.
All right, we're gonna go there and watch a game there, Mike.
I'm thinking Cowboys Cave. If Jerry doesn't treat us any better, we'd just do it there. Now, I'm not gonna, vouch for some of the characters that come to these tailgate parties where we might have to have security at the door, and, that kind of stuff. But maybe we do it at your crib, man. It'd probably be better than AT&T.
Shit. I tell you what, I'm working on it. I'm like I said, I'm just once again, we hang out here every weekends and stuff like that, and it's just I just try to create a pretty dang cool atmosphere in here.
I can do your Michael Irvin video for you. You can't afford Michael Irvin, but I'll do your, get Cowboy Nation, get ready. We'll record something up for you, the big screen.
There we go. And actually, you can do all that. You can add all your own videos in, and heck yeah, let's do it. You can add like actually up to 4 or 5 audios and videos and all kind of stuff.
I'll do that just so you play it one time and I could post it. That'd be fun.
There you go.
Yeah, that's badass.
Let's do it. Let's do it. And hey, but also
Kelly rant. You tie us both in there. That'd be funny as shit.
Yeah,
that's it. We can put one on one and one on the other and just have it go.
What a beautiful room. I'm going outside. I'm going to measure up out in the backyard and see if I can copy you, because that's unbelievable.
Well, as I told my wife, this room started off. It started off 25 by 25, and then it just it grew a little bit more and grew a little bit more. And then eventually it just got to what it was. And she wasn't too happy about it once we got there, but it's all right, but I mean, I'll tell you what, we do our holidays in here. We do everything in here. And, it just serves its purpose. It's pretty dang.
What part of Texas are you in?
I'm in Port Lavaca, Texas. So I'm about an hour. I'm on the coast, actually. I'm about an hour away from Corpus.
Okay.
And Victoria, Texas is probably our nearest biggest town that has an airport. It's not very big, but that's our next biggest town that has an airport there. And like I said, about 2.5 hours away from San Antonio.
All right. Well, I'm gonna if I get to see cuts, we might take a road trip to your place. I got to see this thing. I got to see it.
Hey, but once again, I appreciate y'all having me on.
No,
absolutely.
Thanks for the fan of the month and cuts. Thanks for the cut. Definitely going up into the cave for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Nice.
And thank you everyone for hanging with us on a special Wednesday night. We'll be back on Thursday. We got to do it Thursday, Kelly, because I'm flying back from Maryland, so I'm going.
Yeah.
So Thursday's good. We're good. So we will be back. And like I said, get ready for the May 14th. We're going to do our live schedule release. So we're going to figure out what this Cowboy Cave tailgate is going to be all about. But thank you so much. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe. We're 30 away from hitting that 4,000 mark, and then the next step is 5,000. So definitely appreciate it. Kelly, I'll give you the last words, and then we're out of here.
Yeah, no, just badass man cave. Ronnie, thanks for coming in. You represented the fan of the month. You, like Mike said, continue to raise the bar each time, so it sets a really high standard for the next person. But you guys don't be scared, because here in about another week, we're going to go ahead and roll out the next fan of the month competition. So you guys come in and all you got to do is just be a subscriber, like, share the tweet. If you're not on X and you're just on YouTube, DM me or Mike, get a hold of one of us, and we can get you on as well, and put your name into the entry, and then we'll be drawing here in a couple of weeks for the next fan of the month. So keep that tradition going. The schedule release is coming, which means the release of we'll look and see when we're going to do the Cowboys Cave tailgate. That's going to be exciting. So things are starting to roll. They're starting to progress. We're getting closer and closer into actual real football. So that's got to get the juices flowing. So thanks for everybody that tuned in tonight. Like, subscribe, share. You guys are the best. And let's go Cowboys.
See ya.
Give me somebody that's hungry. Give me somebody that's hungry. I need somebody.